What's up, everybody, and happy Monday to you. Look, I wanted to start the week off by talking about Solana and SUI. These are two cryptos that we've talked about here on the channel for years, and they're two of our favorite cryptos in my portfolio. Now, over the last couple weeks, many of you have asked me, Tyler, are Solana and SUI dying? Because it feels like it, right? Their prices aren't doing much, no one's really talking about them, and it's easy to just assume that maybe this is the end of the run for both of them. And so I wanted to dedicate today's video to answer that question for you. Are Solana and SUI dying? And in order to do so, I'm going to break this video down and talk about them from three different perspectives. We're going to look at them from a company level, a metric analysis level, and a technical analysis level. And after assessing these three things, I'm going to give you my final answer on each of them if I think they're dying or not. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and let's jump into it and let's talk about some Solana and SUI. Now, real quick, if you don't know what Solana and SUI are, they're both two of the biggest cryptos in the world, and they are both layer ones, meaning they're of course blockchain supported by a native token. Now, Solana itself is the sixth largest crypto in the world, coming in with an $81 billion market cap, and SUI is the 12th largest crypto in the world, coming in with nearly a $10 billion market cap. Solana has been around for much longer than SUI has in terms of popularity as well as their technology, as Solana did make its breakthrough right around 2019, 2020, whereas SUI is again a little bit newer as it made its major breakthrough back in 2023. But nonetheless, they both gained a lot of traction, a lot of momentum, and a lot of hype from the majority of the crypto market, which is why you can find them both in the top 15. Now, jumping into, again, the company level first, right? Let's talk about that because it's the easiest one to talk about. And you may wonder, Tyler, what is company level analysis? And it's something that I think people neglect way too much here in the crypto market. What you must remember is that although, yes, they are tokens or coins, right? They're crypto projects. These are companies, and these are massive companies. These are billion-dollar companies we're talking about. And it's easy to look past that. It's easy to think it's a billion-dollar crypto. No, it's a billion-dollar company that has a crypto, right? And I think many people in the crypto space, thinking about them from the perspective of coins or tokens, ignore the fact that they are companies with teams, with employees, with staff, with bills to pay, right? And they just don't look at these things. But oftentimes, the main reason as to why I've seen big cryptos fall is because their team/company is just not doing well. And so, of course, it's good to look at it from a company perspective and just answer the question, how's it doing? And one of the easiest ways to do this is just go look on their Twitter. And I know that sounds so stupid, but trust me, it's one of the easiest ways to just get a grasp of, look, are they out there? Are they networking? Are they building? Are they branding? Are they still growing? Or is it just stagnant? Have they given up in many ways? Easiest way to determine if they're dying or not. And so let's go look. You can head over to the Solana Twitter. And I mean, you can look for yourself, right? So we're here on the Solana Twitter, and you can just see they're frequently out there still. They're doing some massive stuff right now. They're holding huge competitions with over 10,000 aspiring founders, and they are gaining a lot of traction right now. They're holding huge events. They're holding huge, these like little side quest party sort of things. It's absolutely fantastic. And what I will say is Solana has been out there doing more things than any of the other cryptos in the top 10 that I've seen. Listen, I've been to a ton of events this year. Token 2049, ETH Denver, a bunch of them, right? I was out in Vegas a couple weeks ago. And I will tell you this, there is no event like a Solana event this year. People are not nearly as excited at any other event than they are at a Solana event. People aren't as interested. They're not talking as much. They're not as happy. It's a clear, cut, dry, night and day difference whenever you go to another event versus a Solana event. And so from a company level, I would say Solana could be at some of its best right now because of just how excited people are at these events, how well they put together those events are, these competitions, these giveaways, all these things that Solana is doing as a company are making a massive difference. And I think it's why the ecosystem is thriving. And in many similar capacities, SUI is in the same exact boat. Now, SUI is doing a little bit less, I will say. SUI is doing a little bit less in terms of in-person, big events, big growth, big IRL expansions, right? But they are really heavily invested into their ecosystem. I mean, you go look at SUI's Twitter, for example, and what you're going to see is them constantly either generating partnerships or boosting up development for their partners and for their ecosystem. They're not so worried about themselves as a company, and you can kind of see that there's a difference, a stark difference between Solana and SUI. But I do appreciate the fact that SUI is out there and they are actively growing their ecosystem. They're reinvesting into the ecosystem. All of the people who are building protocols on SUI, they're actively reinvesting into them. And I think as a company, that's a fantastic move, because the reason why Solana is where Solana is because they invested so heavily into their ecosystem. And so SUI, as I mentioned before, following closely in its footsteps, they are doing a very similar thing. And I think it's a fantastic step. I think it's a fantastic approach. And so with that in mind, I would definitely say Solana is doing better from a company level, but SUI is absolutely knocking it out the park still. And I do think they're in a very good spot. Okay. And so from, again, a company level, I think they're both fine. I mean, I would give them both an A+. Like I wouldn't really be too concerned about this at all. And what we could do is maybe we can do A+ for Solana, and then let's go ahead and do just let's do a B+. Let's do a B+ for SUI, because I would like to see them do a little bit more in person, but they are still absolutely killing it. So I think we're totally good there. Moving on, let's go to a metric analysis, okay? Let's talk about what's happening from a more metric perspective, because this is where things start to get juicy. And I think this is where people have a flawed perspective, which will make sense in a second. Now, before we get into that, guys, I will remind you, if you all do want to start trading a little bit of Solana, a little bit of SUI today, and basically any other crypto that you've ever seen ever, you can use DFlow. Now, DFlow is what's called a super exchange, and they combine centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges together to give you some of the best prices, the quickest transactions, and you can do everything on it. You can invest like normal, you can go into futures, you can generate a wallet. I mean, everything that you need, all of the best things between centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges are hosted in one place here. And so, say for example, if you want to do some high risk trade, or not some high risk trading, sorry, some futures trading on Solana or SUI or whatever it may be, you can do it here. Say you want to go in and you want to start investing into some tiny little meme coins, some micro caps, like 450,000, you can do it here. If you want to just basically invest into something like Bitcoin or Ethereum or Optimism, whatever it may be, you can do it here. And you're going to get some of the quickest transactions, the best fees, and the best prices, because again, they combine the best of both worlds. So what I'll do is I'll put the link to DFlow down in the description below. If you are basically, again, a trader, meme coin investor, narrative trader, leverage trader, doesn't matter. They have everything available for you down there. So go check that out. Let me know what you think. We move on. So metric level analysis. Okay, let's talk about what's happening from a more metric perspective here, because things are actually getting much more interesting than I think people even realize. Okay, so metric level analysis is my form of, it's like looking at anything that's not technical analysis. So any numbers that aren't technical analysis, I just call it metric level analysis. It just makes my life easy, okay? So what I like to do is I like to use a website called DeFi Llama, okay? And DeFi Llama gives you a clear perspective of what's happening behind the scenes from more of like a metric perspective. So if I head over here and I go to Solana, what you'll be able to see is you can see their TVL, or the total value locked. You can see the volume of all of the DEXs that are on the Solana blockchain, the chain fees, chain revenue, token incentives, app revenue, app fees. I mean, every metric that you might need, you can find here. And that's why I like it so dang on much. And what I like to look at when I look at these different cryptos from metrics is two or three things. I like to look at TVL. I like to look at addresses. I like to look at transactions. This is what's the most important to me, at least for Solana in this example. And the reason why is because it'll tell you this. TVL is basically the size of the ecosystem, right? The higher the TVL, the bigger the ecosystem. The smaller the TVL, the lower the ecosystem. And I'll explain TVL much more in depth later on. Don't worry about it, okay? But just again, think about it. TVL is the size of the ecosystem. So what I'll be able to do is I'll be able to look at this and determine, okay, is their ecosystem growing or dying? And the reason why that's so important is because their token is a direct reflection of their ecosystem these days. The reason why the Solana token does so well is because the blockchain has created a thriving ecosystem that relies on the token. But if that ecosystem dies, that token's probably going to die as well. So natively and naturally, we got to look at the ecosystem. In addition to that, we need to look at addresses. Are more people joining this ecosystem, or is it at least stable? Is it dying? Are more people buying the token? All of these things, very important. And then transactions. Are people using it? So sure, people might be buying it, but are they using it? Because remember, as an ecosystemic token, people need to be using it in order for it to have value, okay? So when we look at these three things, the answer is pretty dang on clear to me. Let's start off with transactions. Or no, sorry, TVL. So from a TVL perspective, obviously, it's pulled back a little bit. And we're looking at its all-time history. Okay, we're looking at its all-time history. So what you can see is that in 2021, we saw Solana's TVL jump up to nearly $10 billion back in, what was that, like November? Yeah, November of 2021, before we entered into the bear market, and it died. This is what dying looks like, right? 2023 was a brutal year for Solana holders. Trust me, I was there. It sucked. As we saw Solana's prices absolutely collapse. collapsing. But of course, leading into 2024 and especially into 2025, we saw Solana's ecosystem really gain a lot of traction. And although we have seen the crypto market pull back this year, Solana's ecosystem is actually maintaining extremely well. Look at how it absolutely collapsed when the bear market started last time. And so when we're in a similar price performance range for the altcoin market here, we're not pulling back nearly as much as we did right here. And it's maintaining very closely to those previous all-time highs. I mean, the fact that Solana's ecosystem is nearly at the all-time highs that we were at in 2021, considering we've not seen any sort of altcoin season happen in the last couple of years, like that's actually very big to me. And I think it's extremely important. Now, when we jump over to addresses, you're going to start to notice the same thing. Although we, of course, have seen it pulling back, it's sustaining extremely well. People are consistently returning and adding new wallets to the Solana network, and that's all we need to see. The ecosystem sustaining or growing. That's not dying, it's sustaining or growing. And if we look at transactions, I really like to see this. Look at how we, of course, had that big jump up back there, but look at how over the last year, Solana's transactions has just consistently increased. It means people are using it more and more and more. And what that means to me is that although things may be boring and dead in the broad market itself, people are still using Solana. And put the final nail in the coffin to say here that it's not dying from a metric level analysis, I want to show you Solana's Google Trends. This is Solana's Google Trends over the last 5 years. And what you can see is that right now, people are massively less interested in Solana than they have been in a long time. We are currently at a 38% threshold from excitement from what we saw in January of this year, meaning that if 100 people were searching up Solana in January of 2025, only 38 of them are still here. It's 38%, guys. I mean, that's 72% less. It's crazy. Or no, sorry, 62% less. Crazy stuff, right? But in comparison, although way less people are excited about it, way less people are talking about it, when you look at its, metrics, they're still holding up very good. And that tells me that this is not a dying ecosystem, it's a sustained ecosystem, or if not, in many ways, a growing ecosystem, which I think is great. Now, looking at SUI from the same exact perspective, okay, we're going to look at some different things here because they offer us some different metrics here for SUI, but I think they're equally as important. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at TVL first, and then we're going to go in and we're going to jump into app fees because all of this stuff is very important, okay? App fees, we'll even do app revenue as well. Let's do app fees, let's do app revenue, and we'll start there. And all of that will make sense in a second. But starting off again with TVL. So TVL, what's happening here? It's actually holding up extremely well. Do you remember how Solana's TVL handled the first pullback it went through? That's how it handled it. Or you can even say this is how it handled it. It wasn't very good, right? Like you didn't really see this bad boy holding up very well. But what can you see here? Solana had its first pump, then it absolutely nuked. And then the second time that it saw a pullback, it absolutely nuked. You compare that with SUI though, and look how it's maintaining its first pullback. SUI has been absolutely performing well. Now, mind you, its TVL is much smaller than Solana's, only at 1.82 billion, so that means its ecosystem is smaller, and oftentimes that does mean it's easier to sustain. But at the end of the day, you can't take away the fact that SUI has been constantly maintaining this all-time high range in terms of TVL for a very long time, meaning that although the crypto market's not performing well, its ecosystem is standing out still, and it's holding up well, and people are still using it. Now, as people are still using it, what you're going to notice is that they are still generating money, right? If you go to app revenue and app expense or app fees and app revenue, you can see here that it has been stable. It has been sustained. And sure, it may be a little bit down in the grand scheme of things, but for the most part, when you look at its fees and revenue, it is consistently generating fees and revenue every single day. And the reason that's so important is because as a new company, a small company like SUI, you need to see them making money. You need to see them being able to consistently be able to generate that revenue because it's the only thing that'll allow them to reinvest back into their ecosystem to do all of the things that they've been doing recently, right? And so when I look at the metrics of SUI, although they are a bit different than Solana, they're painting the same picture. And that's that people are still using it, people are interacting with it, they're still generating money, and they're not seeing their TVL really drop that hard, even though, just like Solana, their social interest has gone nuclear downwards. I mean, it's wild. Right now, this thing is at a 15% threshold, meaning that if back in November and December, 100 people were talking about SUI, guys, it's now 15 people. So that's at an 85% drop in social interest. Yet, when we look at their ecosystem, it's not reflecting that nearly, okay? And so overall, from a metric level analysis, I would say they're in fantastic spots, and they're actually outperforming what they should be, because oftentimes the TVL and the ecosystems of these sorts of cryptos will be a direct reflection of how people feel about them. And although no one really cares about Solana and SUI right now from a social perspective, their ecosystems are holding up extremely well, which is a fantastic sign. So whenever I look at a metric level analysis, again, I would say that Solana is doing a little bit better. A plus, all things considered. But I would say that, SUI is definitely there as well. I mean, they're holding up very well. So metric level analysis looking very good. And now diving into the last one, let's take a look at the technical side of things, because when we do look at the charts, a very similar picture is being painted. I'm just going to kind of give you a little bit of spoiler. A very similar picture is being painted. Now, speaking of technical analysis, real quick, guys, I will remind you, I do post technical analysis every single day over on my Instagram. My Instagram is TylerHillYT_, and I will link it down below. And over on there, you're going to find 2 or 3 videos every single day of me doing technical analysis on things like Bitcoin, Bonk, Solana, SUI, Ethereum, and many more, and giving you some extra info about the news and the crypto market as well. So if you do want that stuff, the link to that is down below. And there also is a link to the crypto playbook, which is releasing in 16 days, which is a free guide for you that teaches you things like technical analysis, metric analysis, and all that stuff. So check the link out down below. And if you do sign up for early access, I'll send you 2 modules out of the playbook today. Okay. So diving into the next thing, let's take a look at the technicals, okay? And this is actually going to be probably the quickest segment of this video because it's a very easy answer. It's a very easy answer. So whenever I was thinking like, okay, how can I order the question of whether or not I believe Solana and SUI are dying? I was like, well, I think we just need to compare it to the rest of the market. If Solana and SUI are underperforming compared to, the rest of the crypto market, the rest of the altcoin market, specifically, then yeah, obviously they're dying. They're underperforming. But if they're holding up similarly, or if they're doing better than the rest of the market, well, they're clearly not dying. And I think that's a pretty easy way to look at this, right? It's somewhat binary in many regards. It's either yes or no. If it's holding up well, yes. If it's not holding up, no, right? And so what we can see here is that if we look at what's called total 2, which is the total market cap of altcoins. Now, if I look at the total market cap of altcoins, what I'll do is I'll just remove all my drawings. And first and foremost, I'm just going to look at this from a macro perspective and see, okay, what happened here? What we can see is that the total market cap of altcoins came up and it hit this previous all-time high from 2022. It then got a bit of a pullback. It then bounced back towards the upside and is now running into some resistance at its Fibonacci golden zone. Now, if you don't know what the Fibonacci golden zone is, don't worry, just know it's a big point of resistance. But that's what happened. We hit the all-time high, we came back down to a key level support, we bounced back up to the Fibonacci golden zone. Let me just compare that and show you what Solana and SUI are both doing. Solana, whenever we just go ahead and let's just clear all these drawings off for now, you can see very clearly what's happening. Solana's price came up right up towards that all-time high. It went, and it had a bit of a pullback back to a key level of support, and now it's seen a bit of a bounce. And as it has bounced, where does it come back up to? Right under that Fibonacci golden zone. The same exact thing that the rest of the crypto market is doing. And if we do look at what SUI is doing, you can see a very similar picture. SUI's price went up, it broke through its all-time high, but it did pull back a little bit. It bounced, and as it bounced, it came back up and ran into its Fibonacci golden zone before seeing a bit of a pullback. And so, although this is a very simple way to look at it, and I would almost say a simple-minded way to look at it, I feel like it's really the only way that we need to look at it. Now, I did do much more in-depth technical analysis on Solana and SUI in yesterday's video titled Altcoin Market Deep Dive. So I'm just going to leave it here for now in terms of the technicals. But from a technical perspective, both Solana and SUI are doing the same exact things as the rest of the crypto market. And so, no, it's not like, ETH and XRP and ADA and all these other ones are pumping while Solana and SUI are dumping. No, they're all pulling back roughly the same amount. And so it doesn't mean that Solana and SUI are dying. It just means that the altcoin market is not performing that great right now, especially whenever you consider the fact that people don't care. I mean, again, if we go look at, let's go over to, let's go here, and instead of looking up SUI crypto, let's just look up crypto. I showed you this yesterday, but just look at crypto. People don't care. Look at the last 5 years, guys. We're currently sitting at a 22% threshold. That means if 100 people are looking up crypto back in 2021, or if 55 people are looking up crypto back in 2024, only 20 of them are still looking up crypto right now. People just don't care. And so that doesn't mean that Solana and SUI are dying. It just means that people are not currently investing into altcoins because we're not on a risk-on environment. People are concerned about all of these geopolitical things that are happening. They're concerned about intrapolitical things that are happening here in the US, and it's causing a whole bunch of uncertainty. And that uncertainty is making people hesitate before buying things like Solana, SUI, ETH, XRP, or whatever it may be. And so, no, it doesn't mean Solana and SUI are dying. And I think the fact that their prices are holding up to the same exact standard and degree that the rest of the crypto market is, I think says that that is clearly the case. And so when I go ahead and whenever I go look at this and I say, okay, are they holding up great? Are they outperforming the rest of the market? No, I wouldn't say that, but they're definitely holding up just as good. I would actually go ahead and give SUI a B+ because it actually broke through its all-time high. And I would say that that's where they are. And so whenever I look at the company level of Solana and SUI, I give them an A+ and a B+. Metric level analysis, I give an A+ and an A. And technical analysis, I give a B and a B+. That's a A rating for Solana, and that's roughly an A rating for SUI as well, B plus the A rating as well. And so, do I think that they're dying? No, I think they're performing exceptionally well. I think from a company technical and metric analysis, they're up, they're sustaining, they're holding up well, and they're still generating opportunity for any of the investors or builders in their ecosystems. And so, with that in mind, that's kind of my thoughts. That's my overall overview of these two cryptos, which are two of our favorites. As I mentioned to you earlier in the video, I bought Solana, which is currently right around 100 and something dollars. I bought that bad boy at 11 bucks. I bought SUI at 60 cents. It's over $2.25 right now. So I'm up hundreds of percentages on both of them. So I could just exit on the both of them and just take my profits and leave. But I'm still holding a lot of my position because I still think there is opportunity. And this is a direct reflection of that, okay? And so with that in mind, that is today's video. And let me know what you feel about videos like this today. I haven't really made one like this before, so I'd love for you to let me know down below. And again, while you are down there are a couple things to go check out. Don't forget to check out that link to DFlow, which is a super exchange where you can start trading basically anything or do whatever you want. You can also check out the Crypto Playbook, which you have 16 days left to get your early access, and follow me on Instagram at TylerHillYT_ for more additional updates from me. But of course, again, I hope you guys did enjoy today's video, and I can't wait to see you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.